Whitlock, who's been more impressive, Golden State or Houston?
Easy for me. The Rockets. They went to Utah and blew them out. Utah's one of the toughest places to play in the NBA. This is easy. Chris Paul, the way he's performing, they're not even really knocking down threes. They're actually playing defense for a change.
Timeout. Houston got a break. So Houston opens with the best team they could face, Minnesota. Can't shoot threes. Can't shoot threes. Then they get Utah, whose best three-point shooter, Joe Ingles, is sort of a defensive liability. This has been great for Houston. If you could have picked teams, it'd be like, okay, give us Minnesota, who's athletic with a big but can't shoot a three. Then give us Utah with a rookie shooting guard, and outside of Joe Ingles, not really a three team. But Golden State is throttling a team that humiliated Portland. That Portland series was it was an underdog sweeping another team. These games are over.
Utah didn't humiliate OKC.
Right.
They beat them in 6.
They humiliated them.
Look, I don't want to take anything from the Rockets because they have been tremendous. But if I had to pick, I would go with the Warriors because, to me, they're facing a better team. Utah is a great team, but they got one dynamic offensive player, and he's a rookie. That's all you have to worry about. In New Orleans, you got Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo, and Drew Holiday are all all-star caliber players.
Yes.
And so that's a lot more to handle. And you're arguably your best player, your second best player, Steph Curry. He's just working his way back from injury, missed one of the games. So I think that they've overcome more obstacles.
You don't like Golden State.
It's not that I don't like Golden State. Alvin Gentry's running the same system as Golden State. They're playing themselves.
Well, let's put it together.
Personnel.
True story. Impressed by Houston because Houston did go, like as you said, go into Utah and pull 2 decisive wins, and they did it on the defensive end. They came out and punched them in the mouth and decided defensive tone to a defensive team. And I didn't think they could evolve in that way. I didn't think they prioritized defense as they did. They held the team under close to or under 90 points both games. They came out with a mission to defend and show the world that they can win games by not outscoring teams, and that's what they did.
Since when were you impressed with Utah? I didn't hear you bring up Utah regular season.
Here's what I thought, Colin. Here's what everyone thought. When Utah won a game in Houston, Mike D'Antoni has shown back up, and there's going to be a problem. And all of a sudden...
That was Dante saying that.
No, I said that because I was impressed by a young team that wasn't supposed to win on Houston's floor. Right. But then that young team also has a enormous home court advantage that most people can't play in with the altitude and their home court fans. It's tough.
Now, as we are seeing, it's like they're taking defense seriously. They stepped it up a level, and, Utah got their attention. And I think today we feel more confident that the Houston Golden State deal is going to be a very good competitive series. I feel more confident about Houston not winning, just being competitive and having a chance to win.
Anthony Davis is a real player. I mean, he's a superstar. He's a Hall of Fame level talent eventually. And Golden State is just, and by the way, Golden State's got layers. They're great defensively. They can play small. They can play bigger. They can be physical. Golden State is just sleeping and crushing people. Last 2 years.
Their versatility offensively is incredible.
Lord.
I mean, yesterday it was a mid-range clinic with Kevin Durant. That's why Andre Iguodala said it reminded him of Michael Jordan. He was hesitant to make that comparison, but that's what it was. It was a dribble or two and going up with the mid-range shot. Houston, Chris Paul has brought a mid-range attack to their arsenal. But for the most part, it's still in the paint or the three. I think Golden State's more
But it's not impressive. Golden State's not impressive because that's the team that they are. They are dominant. They are a great team. They're a championship-level team. It's not like it's the Utah Jazz or it's the Philadelphia Sixers that, Ben Simmons hitting mid-range jumpers, hitting threes now. They are the best team in basketball. This is what they do. Kevin Durant does that on a nightly basis. He is top 3 in the game right now? He knocks mid-range jumpers out. He can go to the basket, he can shoot threes.
You're criticizing because they're great. Golden State is the only dynasty in NBA where we're kind of that's just what they do.
We judge them at the finals.
We
We don't
embrace
judge them now.
Shaq and Kobe.
I'll give you that, but
Yeah, because Kevin Durant went over there after they won a championship. Let's don't forget that.
well,
After
they lost
won, yeah,
that.
after they won a
that-
championship.
Whitlock, who should be more embarrassed by their series?
I think the Philadelphia 76ers, because Joel Embiid started out the series talking about we don't need anybody, our time has arrived, we can do it now. They got full of themselves. And here's a beat-up Boston Celtics team with two of their best players sidelined for the entire season, and they're making a mockery of the Sixers. I think Brett Brown, the coach, looks bad. We just talked about Ben Simmons looking bad. This is an embarrassing performance from some young kids that got out over their skis.
I think Toronto looks embarrassing. They've maxed out. They've peaked. This is it. Like, they literally changed their offensive philosophy. They don't have cap space to go get, like, this is it. I mean, when I look at Philadelphia, I'm like, yeah, they could get a long wing shooter. You know, Redick's probably too expensive. He'll leave. This is the beginning. Like, isn't Philadelphia exactly where they should be? Messing up late playoff games. The kids are really talented, but are like, the kids screwed up the end of the game against the veterans. That's what happens in the playoffs.
They're getting beat by kids, too. Jaylen Brown.
Well, Al Horford, Brad Stevens. By the way, these guys have been there before. Jaylen Brown was in a playoff performance last year. Terry Rozier's been in a playoff series. Philadelphia is just the young kids that walk into the Y, and the game's really fun. And then at the end of the game, you're like, they don't know the clock. They're screwing up. I'm okay with what Philly's doing.
Yeah, Philadelphia's inexperience and maturity is their factor, coaching-wise and player-wise. Like, the adjustments haven't been made in the playoffs the way they're supposed to. They've made some mistakes before halftime in closing out at half. The kids have just made some blunders when they weren't supposed to, and they're learning and they're getting better on game-by-game basis. But Toronto, as you said, has peaked. Like, they have the wrong matchup for them, and they just can't beat this team. Like, 9 consecutive losses to the same team.
I mean,
mentally, they're fragile.
You wouldn't be surprised tonight if Philly beat the Celtics by 5. You'd be shocked if this veteran team beat Cleveland tonight. Wouldn't you be shocked?
One team's playing Godzilla, and the other team is playing,
But Boston has experience, too.
Yeah,
so,
they do, yeah.
So Terry Rozier has been to the conference finals before. And Jaylen
Al
Brown has been
Horford
to
won
the
60
conference
games in Atlanta. These
Al
guys have
Horford has
experience.
won.
These Raptors are an embarrassment, okay? Whitlock, have you ever seen a bigger bunch of frauds in the Eastern Conference? These guys in Game 1 vomited all over themselves in the fourth quarter, choked away a 10-point lead, losing overtime, and LeBron's like laughing at them. J.R. Smith's hitting three-pointers, looking at the bench and being like, it's over, guys. They crush in Game 2. They win Game 3. The Raptors are who we thought they were. I can't believe I fell for these guys. They had the Cavs in the perfect spot, okay? LeBron's tired, that exhausting 7-game series against your Pacers. Toronto rested, the best bench in the league. DeMar DeRozan can make threes. Everybody was excited, and LeBron has embarrassed them. I mean, Drake is not going to show up to games next year. That's how bad it's been for Toronto.
LeBron James is Superman, and we're acting shocked that Toronto's not kryptonite. And we just talked about it. It's the greatest stretch of playoff basketball I've ever seen. They're dealing with that, and the Philadelphia 76ers are facing a beat-up kid coach who's clowning them.
By the way, Indiana took LeBron 7. Okay, Toronto is going to get swept.
They haven't taken them 7 yet. And that's 3 years. If you had 3 years to try and figure this equation out, not just one serving size. You've had multiple times to find out whether it was the conference finals, whether it was second round last year, whether it's second round year this year too, to be able to figure this out.
Do the Sixers remind you a little of Kobe and Shaq early when they got swept by the Jazz? Remember Kobe throwing up air balls in the postseason?
Paul Malone and John Stockton.
Right.
Who's on that Boston team?
Well, that's the, okay.
Let me ask you this, though. Okay,
emerging
let's say,
superstar.
Okay, let's say the Sixers.
Emerging superstars on that other team.
Let's say the Sixers and Raptors both lose tonight. What do the coaches say after each game? Brett Brown's like, fellas, step one. We're step one.
Right.
Okay. Let's say they lose close tonight. We lost 3 games we could have won, step one. What is Dwayne Casey saying? You know what he's saying? Hopefully I'm back next year.
No question about it. They're going to get blamed. Dwayne Casey's had his bite at the apple several times against LeBron and can't get it done. I still contend Philly talk more smack coming into this. I'm not shocked that Godzilla is letting fire out of his mouth and burning up Toronto. Every Godzilla movie's the same. That's what he does.
Canadians don't talk trash.
They're too polite.
Let's be honest about it. That's not going to ever happen.